Welcome back to the Diamonds Quilt Along. I'm Bernina expert Amanda Murphy, and this month I'll show you how to quilt the large diamonds at the top and bottom of the quilt. This is the last step for completing this quilt, but I'll be back soon to show you some extra bonus projects that you can make with this quilt's leftovers. So let's get started. For each diamond, you'll begin by quilting a series of concentric diamonds. This will provide structure for the quilting to come. To do this, mark the horizontal and vertical centers of the quilted diamond by connecting its corners. Then you'll use the every angle ruler to echo quilt a diamond 1/2 inch inside the seam lines. I'll begin by making sure the foot is down and then using the lines on my ruler to gauge my starting point, which is 1/2 inch in from each seam line. I can also use my laser light if I'm fortunate enough to have a Q series. So I'm going to begin with tiny stitches, and I'm changing that on the stitch regulator. I'm in BSR2, and then I'm going to change back to the default setting of 10 stitches per inch. If you're on a domestic machine, you of course control the stitch length with the speed of your hands and the force with which you push the foot pedal. So I'm going to continue on and quilt all the way around the diamond. I know it's time to stop and change direction because I will get to one of my marked lines. That's the time to pivot. So I rotate my ruler instead of the quilt. That's the advantage of using a ruler for straight line work. And I go the other direction. Now this video is speeded up a bit just so you guys don't have to sit and watch me stitch the whole thing. But you just stitch all the way around that first diamond, and there it is quilted. So the next diamond that I want to stitch is 1.5 inches from my last quilted diamond. So I'm using the lines on the ruler. I'm doing one stitch to bring up my bobbin thread, and I'm holding on to it. The laser light can be very helpful for this. And then I bring down my foot and bring my ruler over. Once again, I'm starting with tiny stitches to lock my threads, but of course you can also begin at a normal stitch length and then later hand bury the tails of your threads. So I'm using the lines on my ruler to ensure that this line is 1.5 inches away from my previous quilted line. And I know when I hit my drawn line, it is time to change directions. So I'll stop there. And then instead of rotating the quilt, I rotate the ruler, and that is one of the main advantages of doing straight line work with a ruler. You no longer have to rotate the quilt. So I keep going all the way around to complete this diamond. I'm on the Q series here, and I speeded up the video a bit, but regardless, I can go pretty fast because I have stitch regulation even at a higher speed. But on a domestic, you want to go a little slower and move your hands in a steady motion. If your stitches are too long on a domestic when doing ruler work, you need to push your foot pedal a little more or turn your speed up a little more. And if they are too short, you need to let up on the foot pedal or turn the speed down. Now it's time to end my thread, so I'm going to do a few stitches very close together, and I'm doing that by going into the BSR2 settings and changing the stitch length down to be tiny little stitches, maybe 18, 19 stitches per inch. Doing some stitches and then grabbing onto that top thread, doing needle down, needle up, press our foot up, and then I clip all my threads. And it's time to do the third diamond. Now I'm going to have to remove my pins to be able to do this because they're going to get in my way. The third diamond is 1/2 inch in from the second diamond. So again, I can use my laser light if I have one on my Q series. That's an optional feature, but it is absolutely great to have. You can see it there. It's that little red light. I love it. And I can also approximate it by looking at the edge of my foot. If the edge of my foot is 1/4 inch from the edge of the quilted line, then I'll be 1/2 inch in when I actually do the stitching. So I just eyeballed that basically right there. And now I'm going to do those tiny little stitches again. Then I'll change my stitch length to be the default of 10 stitches per inch. and finish my final diamond. I cut the threads right at their base and continue around. I reached my line, so it's time to rotate the ruler, not the quilt. And that is how you create the diamond structure for each of the diamond blocks. Now in reality, I created, say I was doing this orange block, I created the diamond structure on this orange block and then went and directly did the fill for that block. And then I went to the other identical orange block and did the same thing, because I didn't want to have to change my bobbin and top threads until the motif was complete. So that's how I did it. If you prefer, you could also do all the diamond structures first and then go in and do all the free motion and ruler work. Either way is fine, because at this point the rest of the quilt is stabilized. And that's it for creating the structure for each of your diamond blocks. For blocks 1, 3, and 4, you'll need some additional markings. So on those blocks, go ahead and remark the center of the diamonds by connecting the horizontal and the vertical corners, and then mark the midpoint of each of the inner diamond sides. I'll be back in separate videos on Bernina's blog, We Also, to show you how I quilted the diamonds blocks.